What up, crypto fam? It's Phantom. It's just going to be a short video today. There's not a ton going on. Not a ton has changed since yesterday, at least. We closed the weekly red, which isn't the greatest news, but we did hold our weekly support trend line, which is, I think, bullish news. I'm still on Team Bull just as long as the support continues to hold. I think the later half of this week is going to be a strong turning point for Bitcoin for a few reasons. I mentioned them on my Twitter. There's a bunch of things just aligning up. We seem to be at max FUD territory. We're in extreme fear territory. The trend line continues to hold, and it's an upward trend line. The RSI has declined since the start of this real bull cycle, and when the trend line goes up and the RSI goes down, it's known as a hidden bullish divergence, and it generally means that we should anticipate a larger move to the upside. So that, coupled with some of the news items that I have, or one in particular news item that I have today, I think that we'll be making a turn for some green candles coming soon. I'm very hopeful for. So let me explain my position. Today we're sitting at 23 on the Fear and Greed Index, which is an extreme fear territory. And if you know this stream, extreme fear territory is a good place to be, because when others are fearful are times that the successful traders are greedy, and when the market is greedy is when the best of the traders are more fearful. So this is what I see as one of the largest bullish news updates that I've found. The Bitcoin illiquid supply shock ratio, first developed by Clemental, has ticked significantly higher this week. Bitcoin supply represents coins held in wallets with little to no history of spending. It's now 3.2 times larger than liquid and highly liquid supply combined. So what this means is basically there's been someone accumulating a lot of Bitcoin and storing it in a wallet that doesn't really move anything out of it for sale. So this is a hodler's wallet, and the top wallets for that holding strategy are now 3.2 times larger than the wallets that are buying to sell when the market uptrends, or are in very short term holding patterns. So this is a pretty bullish indicator. If someone with a lot of money is continuing to scoop up Bitcoin at these prices, it's usually indicative that there's a move to the upside coming. They usually have an inside track to this type of information. So I think that's incredibly bullish. I'll show the tweet that I mentioned today. There's a lot of factors that I think are lining up. So we're in extreme fear territory, and we've hit peak FUD. There's a ton of FUD out in the market right now. Crypto Twitter is savage. Everyone's against everyone. Everyone hates everything that's going on today. Anyone that posts bullish direction, there are about 75 responses saying why they're an idiot, and anyone that has a bearish outcome, the same. So when crypto Twitter is highly volatile, it's because most people are at a point where they're frustrated with the market, and that's generally when we start to make some moves. We're printing the large bullish divergence, which I showed on the Bitcoin weekly chart, and we've been on sideways movement for an annoying amount of time. Those generally happen when we're primed for a move. You can see when they happen before here in the market is when we got our all-time high. And I think we're making a similar move at this point in time, where we're just consolidating, moving sideways, following the trend line. Trend line's acting as support. and we're not making any sizable momentum shifts. We have up and down days, but as far as a weekly candle's concerned, it's nothing that really shows continued momentum to the upside, continued momentum to the downside. That being said, I think we're primed for a big move. I'm thinking it's going to be this week. I'm not sure. There is one news article that I did find today about the EU, and I mentioned this on yesterday's stream. The Parliament's Economic and Monetary Affairs Committee is set to vote on a draft of a proposed bill, which is essentially going to be similar to a ban on Bitcoin. The draft contains a late edition that looks to limit the use of cryptocurrencies powered by an energy-intensive computer process known as proof of work. Although the vote's still a close call, a small majority of committee members may vote against the measure, according to people familiar with the matter. CoinDesk reported yesterday that the provision in question requires all crypto assets to be subject to the EU's minimum environmental sustainability standards with respect to their consensus mechanism used for validating transaction before being issued, offered, or admitted to trading in the union. For cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ether that are already being traded in the EU, the rule proposed a phased-out plan to shift their consensus mechanism to proof of work to methods that use less energy, such as proof of stake. Although there are plans to be movement for Ethereum, obviously Bitcoin hasn't been changed. I mean, they made the Lightning network, but there's no real plans to move it to a proof of stake. So essentially that's where they're coming up with. EU is banning Bitcoin because there's no future growth of where this moves from proof of work to proof of stake. There's been talks to reduce the energy consumption of Bitcoin by using green energy, solar panels and things like that, but the EU came back on that, saying that a number of EU parliamentarians have been pushing for proof of work cryptocurrencies over energy concerns, even if the energy in question were to be renewable. They fear that the renewable energy could be channeled into a proof of work computing rather than a national grid destined for public use. It's the one argument that they have, and they're going to play this hand as often as they can. A lot of the cryptocurrency movement has obviously pushed back on this because, one, you can move towards green energy and still keep proof of work. Two, these big governments that are banning cryptocurrency are essentially banning one of the top innovation platforms around today. And I think this puts them at an extreme disadvantage long term. If EU bans Bitcoin over a course of years, they will do their coding elsewhere. They'll do their innovation in other parts of the world, and Europe will be left behind. It was the same problem when some of the top cryptocurrency people, Sam from FTX, one of the Coinbase consultants, they were speaking to Congress and telling them the same type of thing. If it's banned in the United States, then kiss your lead on innovation goodbye, because this can be done anywhere, and people will do it anywhere with VPNs and things like that. Granted, they can't always convert it to fiat easily. That's where the governments have kind of their chokehold on the market, but innovation will continue to happen. This will continue to flourish in other parts of the world, and it will make people double down because the government isn't listening to the people. The government's doing what it deems as best and not really listening to the voters themselves. So I think this is going to get nuked tomorrow, is my hope. I think there's going to be even more pushback tomorrow, and I'm hopeful that they take a realistic approach to this. This kind of got snuck in last minute, and I think it's some really, really old school thinkers that are trying to get this just flushed in, just kind of swept under the door at the last second, as the door is closing, type of deal. And I'm hoping they get called out for it, and I hope it reflects on, for future elections. What we've seen happen now is different politicians are having to come out in favor of cryptocurrency and educate themselves on cryptocurrency to get an important swath of the voter base. People are voting on the side of innovation and freedom, and Bitcoin is both of those things. So hopefully we don't get the evil law proposed sent to the next stage, because I think that will be a pretty bullish event. I think some of it already kind of got baked in today with the drop that we had, and I'm hoping it gets flushed out. The Fed comes out at the end of this week, and I think they may kick the can down the road again. And I'm hopeful that at the end of this week we start seeing a reverse of the price action. We have another week to see if we break this trend line. If we do consolidate and just move sideways and warrant price action for another week, I'm not going to be moving from any bullish sentiment until we do two things. We close below the trend line on a weekly structure, and we close below the 29 to 32K region. Both of those things need to happen for me to be bearish again, and I think after that we drop quite a ways. That said, I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we're out of the bull market. I don't think it's going to. I think it's dangerous to choose an end date now until we kind of have a true cycle top with good news and innovation continuing to be pushed out, even with all the odds against us, for us still to hold a $38,000 Bitcoin, which, back in November of 2020, so 2 years ago, right? We were in another stage. Our high then was $16,000. So perspective and zooming out are important, is what I'm trying to get at. And I don't think we're done with this cycle yet. I think that we are going to have one more strong push to the upside. And I think it's going to cause a lot of people to FOMO in. And I do think people are going to get wrecked, because even though they've had two chances at this before, a lot of people will be coming in on this third cycle, seeing how successful it was on the first two, and they're not going to take profits timely. And when that happens, people tend to get wrecked, or they get in too late and want to break even, or want to see the green days that they had just weeks before, and they just hold out. And that's fine if you're a long-term hold and you don't, eating the losses now in 4 or 5 years pay off dividends. But there's such an emotional psychology to trading. So I can tell you that I bought some towards the top of 2017 to 2018, held them over the course of time, continued to buy, and I was very happy to make pretty legit gains this year, or last year, to 2021, when the market came close to one of its tops. I don't think it's going to be the be all end all of this market for this cycle even. I think this puts us in an extreme fear territory that people are going to get really nervous and scared and frustrated, and that's generally when we start making moves to the upside. So that's kind of my rant. That's my information for today. I hope you appreciate the content. Like I said, I'll start looking at altcoins when I think it's fruitful to do so, but until Bitcoin has really chosen a direction of where the momentum would like to shift, I don't think it's really helpful to look at altcoins. I think they're kind of traps all over the place. A lot of them look at like they're in great buying opportunities, And they are, based off of how last year went. That said, if Bitcoin crashes down, they come much further. They come down much further than Bitcoin. They get hit a lot harder than Bitcoin. So I'm just fine. Obviously not financial advice, but I'm just fine waiting, sitting on my hands, seeing how things play out, and then getting into the market once Bitcoin chooses a clear direction. So I'll catch you all tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow we get some good news from the EU. My fingers are crossed. Hopefully we get some decent news and negotiations in the war in Ukraine. I'm hoping the news cycle changes and stops being so negative. Hopefully the S&P comes out strong tomorrow, and we can turn the ship around and have a great week. I think it may be towards the end of the week before really things start to change, but been wrong before, I could be wrong this time. I'm still holding my bullish sentiment until one of my indicators invalidates. So I'll catch you all tomorrow. I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday. I hope you have an amazing Monday. Back to the grind. Until then, I'll catch you all tomorrow. Peace.